actually a friend of mine and a colleague in the coffee world, a very nice lady, former social worker. And Sue is in charge of social procurement practices for Starbucks. I sent one of my people into a Starbucks in Boston. She came back and she said, the barista said all our coffee is fair trade. I said, write a letter to Sue. She wrote her a letter to Sue and said, what's the deal here? You know, did they just not know? Sue wrote back and said, well, you know, some people are kind of confused by the way we give the information, but we tell them that all our coffee is fairly traded because of the cafe standards, without even realizing that only 55–60% of Starbucks coffee is cafe practice. The other 40–45% is standard market coffee. There's nothing special about it. Green Mountain doesn't even know where 50% of its coffee comes from. They'll tell you, they don't even know. But now they're putting the fair trade logo on their delivery trucks, which gives the impression that they're a fair trade company. So people see that and go, whoa, cool. That problem's solved. I'll go American, fight something on wheat, rice, pretty much everything we grow as commodity crops is heavily subsidized by our government. That means that our farmers can afford to sell them into those very countries cheaper sometimes than the farmers can sell them locally. So we basically wipe out the local farmer's ability to sell his own crops on the market, and it becomes a place where our food gets exported to. Conversely, those farmers don't have any subsidies, so their price is their real price. If they want to come sell it to the United States, they're selling it at their real price, and so with shipping and everything else, the price is higher.
I'm really ignorant, but subsidizing means what again?
It means the government gives for a bushel of corn, for every bushel of corn that a farmer grows, the government may give him $1. So instead of it taking $1.50 to grow that corn, with the government subsidy, it only cost him 50 cents. So he can afford to sell it for 60 cents and make a profit on it. Whereas the African farmer grows that corn, and maybe it cost him 80 cents to grow, but he has no subsidies, so he has to sell it for 85 cents if he's going to make any profit on it. So already the African corn is 85 cents, or Mexican corn is actually a better example. Mexican corn is 85 cents, American corn is 60 cents. They can't compete.
That was the big issue with the WTO.
Yeah, that was a big issue with the WTO.
Ours is corporate agriculture too.
And ours is corporate agriculture.
Yeah.
So many tax breaks and subsidies, yeah.
This is the first time I've heard what you do. I'm very impressed in it, and there's two filmmakers here, and I'm wondering, how do we get this kind of information?
There's, you know, what kills me is the millions of bucks that have been poured in by Transfair, which is the main licensing organization for fair trade transactions. They don't license companies. They don't certify companies. They only certify individual purchases of coffee from farmers, which is one of the problems. But Transfair has had millions and millions of bucks from Ford Foundation and everybody else over the last 5–6 years to get the word out on fair trade. And I saw a survey that they commissioned last year. I've got a copy of it, a private survey, and it said that only 7% of American adults ever heard of fair trade, and of them, very few actually knew what it meant, which blew my mind, because I said, well, hell's bells, a new movie comes out, everybody in the country knows about it in a week. You know, what's wrong? What's the problem? You say, well, yesterday you gave me 80 cents for it, today you're only giving me 60. Why? Well, the New York seed price dropped. And they're like, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, this is what it took me to grow it, and my kid needs food, and I got to go send him to school. It's totally bizarre, you know? The New York seed prices, commodity pricing is the biggest form of imperialism, because it has nothing whatsoever to do with anything about the lives of people. What's really interesting, and I've been trying to scream about this a lot lately, you know, to contrast to my free trade buddies, is fair trade is the only free trade there is. Because fair trade is actually a buyer and a seller getting together, an arm's length transaction, and agreeing on a price. That's what we do. Free trade over there in the ring has nothing to do with that. Free trade is about multinational corporations setting price targets based on what they think their needs are going to be, and then a boatload of speculators who've never been involved in this thing before since the late 80s when the international thing collapsed. That was the Reagan administration saying,
oh, is that it?
It was a buyer and seller organization, international coffee organization, and they set both quotas for countries and a price band. So coffee was a very boring commodity because it was always floating in this very narrow price band, and the countries would limit how much they sell to keep the price down. You know, It was very nice. Then Reagan came in and said, free market for all. We left the ICO, the thing collapsed, and prices went haywire. They started to shoot up because speculators got involved and said, look, we can make money on the float, because that's what speculators do, right? And because it was an unregulated market now, people were going, Brazil, going to be a frost in Brazil. That means there's going to be less coffee. That means prices are going to be higher. Buy, buy, buy. February futures, buy, buy. I bid $1.10. He's bidding $1.10. We're going to get our coffee. $1.15. Prices went boom, and then they crashed because there was oversupply at the same time. Okay, so the prices plummeted to one day it was 30 cents a pound. You heard it's 60 to 90 cents to grow a pound of coffee. 30 cents a pound. And that's the C price. Harar gets C minus. One of the nasty tricks that some of these fair trade importers are pulling now, that's why you gotta go with 100% companies, is, and they tell me this in Peru and some other people told me in Colombia, two totally different farm groups that don't talk to each other, so I know it's true. This is what they told me. The exporter comes down and says, we'll buy a container of fair trade coffee from you. It's C plus about 50 cents. But we're gonna buy 6 containers of conventional coffee and we're gonna give you C minus 5. So yeah, this formally is a fair trade coffee, and it makes it up here, and Starbucks buys it, and then says, we got fair trade coffee, and the consumer goes, oh, it's fair trade coffee. But if you don't understand the whole bagel, it's all we're doing is really, that's why Starbucks is only 3-4%, because they know they can get away with all this stuff, and frankly, the little bit of money they're paying on that 3-4% is nothing. You know, they piss that away in advertising in a day. Perfect example. They gave $10,000 to Timor for health programs that we've been given $1,000, $1,500 a year for about 6 years, so we gave about the same donation over time. Starbucks spent $40,000 with U.S. Air. Yeah, $40,000 with U.S. Air for 1 month to put it on the trans-coastal flight that you sit there and you're watching and the thing comes up, right? And then I was talking to the Starbucks higher-ups about that, and they were complaining that they had to spend $100,000 on the damn 30 days of the filmmakers to send them to Timor and film the thing, and the guy was saying, yeah, so much money, we had to spend so much money, they really ripped us off, the prices were so high. So they spent $140,000 infrastructurally. You know, you can make some serious social change just by making that one commitment and getting your parents and friends and kids to do it too.
What's the percentage difference in price between fair trade and non-fair trade coffee?
Well, there's two aspects of that. One is the raw price that gets paid to the farmers, right? And under fair trade, currently the minimum fair trade price, and that's when the C price is low, when the C price goes above this price, then fair traders pay nickel above that, even always keep fair trade above the C price. The minimum fair trade price is $126 for conventional, $141 for organics, because there's a 15-cent organic premium. At Cooperative Coffees, we've raised the organic premium to 20 cents because the farmers say 15 cents isn't enough. And we've raised the other price 9 cents. So our minimum price is $1.56, I think. Yeah, our minimum price is $1.56. We set that in Shela, Guatemala, a year and a half ago at a meeting of farmers from all over Central America and our cooperative of roasters, and the fair trade, the international fair trade people were there, and they said this is going to send a shockwave through fair trade. There was recently a big meeting in Costa Rica of fair trade farmers and Transfair, and trying to get fair trade up that minimum price, and fair trade refused. Because fair trade is already, Sara Lee is fair trade, Nestle's has gotten in there, they're fair trade, Starbucks is fair trade, all the big guys got smart. They're going in there and they're dabbling in fair trade so they can control it. And that's just what's happening. So if it ain't 100% fair trade, it's ethically challenged and it participates in this system that makes it look like there's a lot going on and there isn't.
So in terms